This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories. And welcome to my review of Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. And this is honestly a great adaptation of the series. If you haven't watched it yet, I'd highly recommend watching the movie before you go and see this, because I will be discussing spoilers, and although this does follow the storyline of Crisis, and me just saying who this focuses on is making it really obvious what happens. So spoilers from here on out. And this film is incredible with it almost fully focusing on the Flash, him being the main character, and this going through the events that lead up to the death of the Flash. And this is honestly completely different than Crisis and how he dies. And it is still really well done. It is a really interesting story, and we get to see so many crazy things in this. I think that the way they told the story was really interesting. It really reminded me of how the story was told in Oppenheimer, where it goes through a bunch of different points in time. Although Oppenheimer was mainly 2 points with some flashbacks, this was set throughout Barry's life in 3 main points. One being his time with the formation of the Justice League immediately after the end of Batman the Long Halloween. The second is him being trapped on Earth 3, where he is going against a crime syndicate and sees the first signs of the antimatter wave. And the final one is the main Crisis storyline, which leads into a fourth, smaller one, which turns out to be at the same time, where it is a really nice reveal that Barry managed to extend time with him and Iris so they could not only go and build the towers to defeat the antimatter wave, but also lived a full life together. And it was very nice. Barry got to see Iris passing away, and then was going to join her after he went and basically used the rest of his energy to go and power up the devices to save the multiverse. And obviously, there's going to be going more from here, and there's going to be more destruction on other Earths, and this isn't the end of the story. But still, I think that even if this was just a one-part movie, this could have been a really well told story, but there's going to be more going on. We'll be seeing most likely the death of Supergirl in the next one, and all the universes combined together in the third one. Although I'd say most of them, because I don't know if they're going to destroy some of them, because there is the DCAU, which will be in the next one. I've seen stuff for the trailers. Terry McGinnis' Batman will have at least a minor role in it. Hopefully, a more major one, because I think it'd be really great to see him. Although I'd really want to see also, although I mentioned this around a year ago when Kevin Conroy passed away, a movie that is kind of dedicated to the legacy of Kevin Conroy's Batman in the Batman Beyond timeline after Bruce's eventual death. But yeah, honestly, I am really excited to see this. I would assume that Terry's going to be from after at least the episode epilogue, where we get to see him learn that Bruce is his biological father through cloning and a bunch of complicated stuff, which I'm not going to go into now. But that's going to be for me to talk about in the next one. Going back to this one, there's so many other just crazy things in this. I really like the formation of the Justice League story, where it was originally just a ruse to get Amazo out, but they realized that they actually do need to do this, and this would be a great way to protect the world. Honestly, it was a pretty nice story, and the Justice League is definitely different here. It seems Wonder Woman doesn't exist in this world, and it's just a very different Justice League setup than typical, where it was only Batman, Superman, Flash, and Martian Manhunter from typical setup, but then Green Arrow and Vixen were also there, and they decided not to do anything with the character of Hal Jordan as Green Lantern, even though they could have, since he would not yet become. I can't think of his name right now. The villain he becomes. It starts with a P. I just can't think of the, the name right now. But it was pretty interesting to see everything. Besides Hal, I think they could have had him there, and it would have been interesting to at least get a little bit from him before he falls to evil. And going into everything else, there's some really good stuff. I like the story with Lex and Amazo in this, and even Ivo, who I think was kind of predictable. Luthor caused his disease like he would do for other characters, like Metallo, for example, where he tricks him into getting rid of his body, and there's a bunch of other characters. And Luthor never makes so many friends, but also I love how we just get this little bit where Amazo is helps to save the world and fulfill the purpose. This is an Amazo more inspired by the DCAU, where he is more of a good guy and not the typical villain he is in most continuities. And there's just so many other crazy things that happen. It seems that most likely the version of Pariah for this is going to be John Constantine. And although it doesn't have Matt Ryan in the credits, there is thing saying that Nolan North plays a homeless man. And while this is most likely Pariah, it could be, some other character as trying to throw us off, and didn't want to fully reveal it is Constantine yet. So who knows? Matt Ryan may have voiced him, and they may just be hiding that fact for the next movie, where we'll learn that it is Constantine. But with the fact he's using magic, and it seems he does have power and did something to cause him to be punished and most likely unleash the Anti-Monitor, and the fact that with Constantine, House of Mystery was setting up the fact that Constantine was going to be punished for what he did, changing the timeline in that. And also, this seems to be the same version of Barry who, when changing the timeline this time, didn't retain his memories from his previous life in the DC AMU, or from when he existed in the pre-timeline before Flashpoint. Well, the first one. And yeah, honestly, I'm not fully sure where he went at the end and who he talked to, but it was still pretty interesting to see that, and I want to see what they do with this. It seems that the Anti-Monitor was somehow unleashed when the timeline from Justice League Dark Apocalypse War was reset into the Tomorrowverse, and I do want to see how that is explained, because it seems that this is fully the fault of the Flash and Constantine, with the Spectre mentioning that. So I do want to see what happens with that. I also think it was really cool to see a lot of these characters from these DC Showcase shorts to appear in this. There was Blue Beetle, voiced by well, Anakin Skywalker's Lantern, as was Ultraman, who, although that was the weakest part of the story with the crime syndicate, it was still interesting. It was just the one that had the least amount of time dedicated to it, as more for Barry to learn about the antimatter wave. I also think it's interesting how his memory is jumping between these different times, and it's kind of messed up from returning from the other universe in Justice League, well, Justice Society World War II. And yeah, honestly, this was just a really crazy movie. It was really interesting, and I really can't wait to see what they do with the next one. Honestly, I do hope that we somehow get Kevin Conroy being Batman one last time. Well, one last time again for this, since the next movie is probably going to be coming out in May or June. That's just my prediction, and once that comes out, we're going to have already had Suicide Squad Kill Justice League release, since that's in like a week, and that is currently the last known performance he has. But I'd love to see him in this, and I would imagine that unless they didn't get a chance to before, they would have wanted Kevin Conroy to be a part of this and have at least a minor cameo. So I do want to see that, and I wonder if this is going to go for the more traditional Crisis storyline where the entire multiverse is destroyed and brought into one universe, or go the Arrowverse way where they really aren't allowed to destroy those other universes and have to have them be restored at the end, at least the major ones. And I'm assuming that's where they'll probably be going, since there will be other animated shows like Harley Quinn, and then the once every like maybe 5 or 10 years DCAU related movie. Plus, they're still continuing the DCAU in comics. I can't remember if season 3 of Batman: The Adventure Continues is finished. I haven't had a chance to even like look through my comics for the last few months, but I do know I don't have the Throne Alliances one. If you're wondering about that with the post, because I do know what was shipped. I just know that Throne Alliance is released like today. So yeah, honestly, I think that this is just a really great movie. Highly recommend checking it out. And I won't really be able to compare this to the Arrowverse version until it is completed, but it was still really solid. But doesn't have as much setup as that one did, although it is technically the combination of two full animated universes and then parts of another one where I wasn't fully sure if everything from those earlier DC animes were, at least the Justice League ones, were in the same continuity, but it seems similar, and I switched around from having Kevin Conroy as Batman in this universe over to I can't remember who plays him in the DC AMU. It's at the top of my head. I just can't think of the name. And finally having Jensen Ackles play him in this continuity. And then the Barry Allen also is basically the same one where it's gone through a bunch of changes. But I do want to see what happened, because it seems that unlike the DC AU, and he does not retain his memory, or well, he doesn't retain it for most of that, but it seems that he does get it back before the events of Apocalypse War. But it does not seem that happens in this one, because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, the Spectre's talking about when he talks about how this is all Barry's fault, at least partially. But yeah, I honestly want to know what you think, because it seems the next one's going to be focusing on Supergirl primarily, but that also means we're most likely to be seeing her death, since that's what happens in the comics, and the fact that, well, they wouldn't have done either of them in the Arrowverse because they still had the Flash and Supergirl airing show, so we wouldn't have seen the main versions die. Although we did see the 90s Flash die, so there was that, but there was a really nice ending for Barry. Really well told story. I like the three different, time points we got to see. And yeah, honestly, I want to know what you think. Please let me know in the comments, and also next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.